So, a few things to talk about today. I'm uh, in the field doing testing. There's a little white box on top of my tractor now that is my router, onboard router. Um, and then the Ethernet cable is coming down to my Raspberry Pi. Obviously, the Raspberry Pi has Wi-Fi on it as well, but I just wanted it to make sure that I had as strong a signal as possible to because I've got correction data, and at some point, hopefully, I'll hook up that camera and get teleoperations working. So my progress so far is to get this router working, powered it with Nicholas's suggested 12 volt to 5 volt converter.
Good.
So that's working well. At the moment, you can, if you know these F9Ps, you'll see that no RTK light is off, which is a good sign. Really odd logic, but anyway, so it's getting fixed. And I'm under a pretty significant tree canopy, which is great. And I'm also getting heading for my two antennas. You won't be able to see it, but off about 100 feet in the yard, there's a black box and there's a router on top of it. And that's the base station. So all of that is progress since last week after a few stumbles. So that's good news. This morning I'm doing field testing. This is my handheld radio control, and you can see on the left a green light, which is saying that the NRF radio is working with the tractor. The top blue light is on the right is basically telling me what mode I'm in, which is manual mode. Mm-hmm. And then the one underneath that is telling me whether I have RTK fix or not, and it's green. So I do have fix earlier this morning. I had to change some programs around to get that corrected. So I'm in pretty good shape.
Good.
So at the moment, I'm going to go back and share my screen on the laptop and talk about a couple things there. I'm going to try to change audio back to the laptop. Hold on.
Okay.
It says I'm sharing my screen.
Mm-hmm.
So at this exact moment, I've got a script that writes this CSV file and captures a number of pieces of data. And my next step is to get this to work a little bit better. At the moment, hold on a second. Where is the... Okay, Bob, can you hear me?
Yep.
So at the moment, I've got my next step is to work on a script that runs on my Raspberry Pi that captures a bunch of data.
Good.
This is my field logger, and again, I come from a ROS 1 history, but I haven't used any ROS components yet in this, and so I've got to write my own logger where in the ROS world you get ROS bags and a lot of nice tools, so I don't have those tools, and so I'm writing this and debugging this at the moment to get the data that I want. So I've got these two ports that are generating different kinds of data, and my status at the moment is I'm updating this logger to get the right kind of data. So my Raspberry Pi is working on the tractor. I'm getting RTK fix even though I'm under a canopy. I've got a Wi-Fi in the field system that is a little bit kludgy, but is working at the moment. I'm doing this video call from that same network. And that's my status with the tractor. One other thing I was going to show you is, do you see this screen with whiteboard on the left side?
Yeah.
So these were my previously I had in my GitHub. I had this folder, so this is my main repository. I have these folders, and then I have this Obsidian Vault. And you and I have both used Miro boards in the past, and this is still my Miro board. But when I was starting to work on this Wi-Fi connectivity, I decided, a friend had told me about Canvas, which is the tool inside of Obsidian to do a whiteboard. So I added a folder, and I've just dipped my toe in to trying to use Obsidian to replicate what I had previously done with the Miro board. So more news to come, but I have a folder there, and the attachments are there, and the Canvas data is here, and so that'll be another. They always say you got more to learn.
Yeah. It never ends.
It never ends. So I'm trying to use the whiteboard function inside of Canvas, inside of Obsidian.
Okay. I've seen references to Canvas, but I'm not exactly sure how that differs from just doing chats.
Well, it might do more things than what I'm going to tell you, but think of Canvas as a Miro board inside of Obsidian.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, a Canvas.
Yeah, so I'm hoping it will, once I get more educated about it, it will replace using a Miro board.
Okay. Yeah, that way everything's in one place.
That's the notion. Okay, that's what's going on in my world.
Oh, okay. I really considered starting over and, like I said, just pull what I need into a new repository. But then I'm starting to realize I didn't understand what I didn't understand. So let's see if I can. Come on. For some reason, I should be. Okay. Now, so can you see that now?
Uh,
I'm
yeah, close that video screen. There should be an X.
there.
Yeah, so I see problems encountered at the bottom and hardware abstraction layer at the top.
Yeah, that's it. I had a bad feeling I was drifting away from what I wanted to do, and I was thinking seriously of just starting over and pull things over to a new repository. But then I realized I didn't know what my mistakes were, and didn't know what I didn't know, basically. So I said,
Mm-hmm.
do a report. Um, let's see. That's okay. Yeah. At this point, run a report, you know, problems, blah, blah, blah. And it agreed with me. So it came up with this thing. It jumps around. So it verified I was on the right path before, and then the Lenovo was supposed to be the development, and it gave me a executive summary, which is all the good stuff, and it verified certain things. The main issue was it, it was my basic architecture started drifting from what I had originally wanted. For some reason, my development chain turned into the controller, which is not what I wanted. And the reason why that happened is because I didn't lock the original architecture. And the other problem was that even though I created a project thinking everything was stable as I develop it, that's not the case. It still um, drifts off. So it came up with 7 sections to the report. The number one was there are multiple architectures. And then number two, the laptop became misdefined. It was in reality, it's supposed to be development, but it turned into a controller. And my documentation drifted off. And then I was trying to fix it, moving files around as directed by chat, but the architecture wasn't locked. And then the experimental code he had me going through wasn't isolated, it was all mixed together. And problem 6 was there was no validation gate. And then the next thing, the third part of the report was it found these problems, and basically it inventoried from scratch all hardware, software, repository, and code. And it looked at my state document, and that was the key problem. Um, it, it showed that what the active system was, and um, one software program was inactive. And the conclusion was the documentation was more accurate than node specification. So success to date, the hardware separation is good. The motor safety architecture is good. Communication is good for debugging. The repo structure has a good foundation. Number 5, earlier on when I started this, I said, make no assumptions and verify from files and terminal output. So as it told me to do something, I'd do it, but then I'd take the output and turn it back into chat. And that was my feedback mechanism to see if it was right. And then it says, here's some rules that I should make mandatory. And this is one of the things I wanted to do, even for something as simple as nanobot, because then that becomes a framework for when I start jumping into Jeff's robot Sammy. So rule number 1 is kind of lock in the architecture. Every component, who knows it, talks to it, stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Second rule, every file has an owner. And if the file doesn't have an owner, it can't be committed to repo. And then I have to better identify this stuff. And before I do any ads or anything else, I have to review the changes. And one of the things I requested in the beginning was develop some kind of a protocol or even have to run a program of guardrails so I don't drift off into Never Never Land. So it's suggested number 6, automatically detect, check for hidden files, ownership rules, dependency check, document check, and then this was real important, protecting my Git comments, because during the discovery, there were like 5 or 6 commit statements, that long chain of letters, and there were like 4 or 5 different ones. And I don't know why those got in there. I was confused about the process, I guess. And it's making some suggestions for a protection plan. Make sure it passes at each state. And the 7th part of the report was I should freeze the current state into this. And second, I should correct the documentation, move my experimental components, but don't delete them, and then build a guard program for each area. And so then it gave me a new milestone. This stuff is make sure this is good. Next phase is the architectural cleanup and protection. And I said, how do I get guard to automatically start? More or less saying, I don't trust myself. And it said it would not recommending do it automatically at boot, which is a good thing. And then it gave me some options on how to do it. So I can select to run it automatically before a Git comment. And it said, this is how you do it. Create a hook, then add. And then I have to make it but option 2 was run it before pushing. And option number three, create a script that runs all of these guards at each stage in the development, or I mean, check everything first before I get or push. And it said, don't do this, which is good. Don't make it a system service or a startup. A longer term improvement was put little guards in each area. And I just do a simple git hook that would execute this stuff.
Bob, it
And
looks like a lot of work. What are you trying to protect from?
um, doing dumb things that I don't realize. And this is trying to prevent myself from making mistakes.
I mean,
So,
earlier you talked about architecture issues in multiple architectures. I understand your architecture to be um, your motor controller is connected to your motors on one end and connected to your Raspberry Pi on
yep,
the other end, and your Raspberry Pi is connected to your Orin Nano, and you want to do development from your laptop, and you also want to do teleoperations
yeah,
from your laptop.
correct. But the problem was somehow I made a mistake and said the laptop would be a controller, but that was my misunderstanding of what it was asking me. So then it assigned the laptop as a controller. So
Well,
then
to
when
be
that,
clear, teleoperations is a control feature.
yeah. So, and evidently it did not check my beginning um, markup, my .md file, and say this is the hardware and how it should be used. So I don't know why that wasn't good enough to stop the deviation. So anyway, um,
Because you got pretty, I mean, you were further than me in some respects at being able to pan and
yeah,
tilt your servos from your laptop over a web page. I
yeah,
mean, that's fantastic progress.
yeah. So what I what I what I started goofing up was when I went from a simple control thing and I started trying to do things with GitHub and Obsidian and all of that. So, but I realized too that I really for the future I should learn how to do this stuff correctly with GitHub and Obsidian. So that's why I'm taking the time to understand how everything works. It's very time consuming, but I think maybe I should have looked at a lot of GitHub and Obsidian videos before I even started. Maybe I could have caught my mistakes earlier. But me, I just jumped right in and started playing with it.
I don't see any problem with that approach personally. It's
Mm,
an iterative process. You every once in a while you have to
yeah.
sort of
But
say,
hopefully, when I'm done with this, and I know, and I expect what the nanobot should be able to do, that'll get me back to where I was. Then this whole this whole dialogue thing will be a framework for when I start going into like Jeff's Sammy robot because it's going to be difficult trying to figure it out, and I might chances are I'll make a lot of mistakes trying to reverse engineer it. Although I did find one USB drive that had SAMI backup files. So that was a Linux directory. So I did the tree command and said, and I went five deep on the directories and told Chat to look at it. And it gave me an idea of what's going on. I don't remember where I asked it. Um, well, I'd have to look. I'd have to look for it.
It just feels important to reiterate you are very far along.
Oh,
You controlled physical devices connected to your Raspberry Pi using a web page as your control input.
yeah,
I think that's fantastic.
yeah. I like the idea. It gives me the confidence to go after doing more of this instead of just flat giving it up and shelving it.
And the Jeff stuff, I mean, the Sammy robot, at a very practical level, you've got motors connected to a motor controller, connected to a device.
Yeah,
I mean, at that very practical stage, you're going to be able to look physically at his equipment and say, how did he do that?
yeah. So
But you'll probably be applying your own software to that. I would be, well, to try to get a machine running ROS1 and replicating that software, personally, I wouldn't try to do that.
no, no. I'm hoping I can find the programs to at least get it going. It might the backup file, the semi backup file is from 2012. So it probably won't have the latest stuff on it, but it might be a good beginning point if Chat and Claude can piece it together and make sense of it for me. So anyway, I haven't even looked at SAMI or the circuits that are on it or any kind of analysis. But I'll do that. But first, I want to get Nanobot back to where it was operating before I started messing with GitHub and Obsidian. But I really think it's important for me to really get to know the GitHub and Obsidian and find ways not to shoot myself in the foot.
Yeah, I mean, GitHub is a file folder in the sky. I mean, it's at its simplest level, it's a
Yeah,
file folder in the sky, and Obsidian is not much different in the sense that it's how you interact with basically notes and
yeah,
some sophisticated notes, but really it's just notes
yeah.
for what it helps. That's how I hold it in my head.
Yeah, I kind of understand. I understand the principle, but where I was making mistakes is um, that whole process of committing and pushing, and I was doing some commits I really didn't that probably weren't thorough. They were just parts of it, and that's why I had so many different commit signatures, if you want to call them that. But so now I know better.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
You're still learning.
Yeah. It's this. So anyway, that's where I'm at.
Okay, let me turn off recording here.
Okay.